to stay. That is my vision. I call it my vision.
Very, very good intervention. I just wanted to perhaps give you an example that Kojève says of authority. Let's say someone intrudes in your office and you want to get rid of them. What would the way be to show that you command authority? Now, if you call security, you say, you have to come up and help me get rid of someone, or if you start yelling at someone, or even if you start trying to persuade them to get out, to leave you alone, that shows that you lack authority.
Right.
Authority is something that is very spare, and all you would have to do is barely glare at the person, maybe a little eyebrow action, and that person should be slithering out of your office. That is authority.
You are very good in that, I know.
Thank you. Yeah, emptying out. Oh, you think that's funny, Alfie? Okay, so that would be one example. The other, which is more like a crime story or a roman policier. I'm reading Pierre's novel now, so I'm thinking in those terms. Les jumelles. Would be authority. Who invented authority, by the way? And it was Plato. He also invented hell to scare the shit out of everyone. Thank you, Plato. But who invented authority? It was Plato when he, and it is like a cop story. It's as if when a cop or RoboCop or I don't know which cop loses his partner, Socrates was murdered by the state, and Plato realized, okay, the rhetoric of persuasion didn't really work so well, and in terms of, we're not well armed, we philosophers, as Kant will later on say, we can only shoot blanks, but we have to do it, you know. Piss off everyone, get it up in their faces, and be difficult. But so Plato thought, okay, we're between a rock and a hard place, and I have to avenge my partner, Socrates. And this is how he started inventing authority. Like, what commands authority just suddenly kind of appears as authority and with authority and parts the Red Sea of little people and so on and so forth. That's where philosophy shows and flexes its muscle to have been able to invent authority. But in that case, with transcendental guarantors, the fear is on the part of Arendt and others is now without authority, and excuse this very retrograde reference, the world and existence is Mad Maxed out. Like, you know, there's no regulatory moment, there's nothing we can look to or hope for in terms of guidance and so on and so forth. Now, the father in all of these cases doesn't have to be an empirical or historical father.
You think I have a father trauma? I'm not sure.
Who just said that? Did I say it? I will consider that a confession.
Okay. But there is a prison. You know, I confess everything as long as you cannot put me in prison. Huh? So the point is that the punishment, that is the point I really resent in that. The punishment. I'm the sovereign. I punish only myself. No one else can do that. And I think that is something all of our students have inside them, this discovery that they really don't need others to punish them. So if they have to be punished, punish yourself. You know.
Okay.
But
let's
please
hear
question.
from the punishers.
Andrew.
Avital, thank you, by the way. It was wonderful. In light of Kafka's The Trial, where the juridical is a nightmare, how do we reconcile that with Kant elevating the juridical as the only acceptable form of authority?
No, this would be, and this is where a lot of, it's excellent, many, many pages are donated to that question, which is still part of, one could say, and this is why I suggested there was a Lutheran edge to Kafka, perhaps, that has been blindsided, perhaps, by excessive focus on other traditions. But the relation to being judged and judging still could be, and I'm saying this much too quickly, because you're right, we would have to carefully unfold and see what's going on in Kafka, but one could say that he submissively puts himself up for review all the time, and there's a kind of, one could say, and then one could have to take that apart and so on, that there is, this is too quick because I don't want to limit it, I mean, because Kafka, as Lyotard has shown us, has proven that no one can prove their innocence in a certain way. And there's all sorts of internalized apparatuses and surveillance mechanisms and so on and so forth. But there is a kind of beyond the pleasure principle of going all the time up against this impossible wall that he keeps on crashing against. That's a spontaneous and impoverished response. I think it's an excellent dossier. I would want to open it and spend years on it, and I have. Especially starting with the letter to the father. Do you know that text? It's really magnificent. It's a letter that never got delivered to the father, but that Kafka wrote and handed it over to the mother, who said, I don't think I'll deliver this letter. You know, so we would have to see, I mean, it also travels parallel tracks with all of these political issues. One thing that interests me that Kafka named for us is the, let's say, totalitarian menace that bureaucracies pose. And there you have a kind of diffusion of the paternal metaphor. Is the bureaucracy a paternal imposition? Or is it somehow, did something else happen? Or is it precisely where authority has kind of been evacuated and then you're being worn down by the FBI on racketeering charge? Is it, okay, let's not get personal, but you know, something is wearing you down that is possibly other than authority. But these are, I'm bringing a question mark here, and I like that you added this to the dossier.
Okay, Katie?
Well, again, thank you for not only just coming the extra mile after what I've heard is a long summer for you, but for bringing in a conversation and questions that tap into so many conversations milling around EGS this week, not only with new doctors, congratulations, but with people who are also caught in between not only this very anti-authoritarian place, but also places in their lives where it's difficult to grapple with authority, which can be, you know, so painful and aimless for people. But that's what makes me wonder if in this disappearance of authority, clearly it's not necessarily that authority has disappeared, because there's, or even a desire for it, because there's a desire for it in others, if not the ones you consider the bad, maybe authorities force, but authorities without, you know. I'm surprised not every hand in this room is raised, just like before your talk, because it's an authority without force that is so moving. But in that, to include the way that I personally come to it, I've been in authority positions so rarely, and even most of them, ones that aren't authority of position, but you don't even notice them until somebody asks you for judgment, and then you realize you're there. And of course, I'm not resisting actual judgment, because as you say, it's so pleasurable, but in giving it, because giving it to someone who's asked is a way of force, and you can even sense it, perhaps without articulating it until you have tonight. But I'm wondering, how do we, if we want to maybe recall authority, or we want to open that question, how do we understand our desire, and how do we relate to this, to giving judgment, or if we even can do it at all? And how do we differentiate that between the desire to judge, maybe quietly and silently? How do we make that work for what we want to accomplish?
It may be